Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. This week's show, we're going to recap the 2020 IBJJF No-Gi Pans first major No-Gi event for IBJJF with heel hooks. We're going to preview Submission Underground 23, headlined by Mason Fowler and Chambers. And we are also going to talk a little bit about some upcoming cards. And yeah, that's it. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host.
Zach.
How you doing, Zach?
Pretty good.
Where do you want to start this week? Let's start with a little bit of news. Fight to Win has canceled some additional dates. They are coming back June 4th as a result of their graphic designer, Mike, dying. That's unfortunate. Yeah. Kind of downer note to begin the show on, but it looks like they're going to come back with Fight to Win 172 in Dallas on the 4th, and then move into June.
Yeah, and it's respectable of them to close down for the time that they do. They are. It's nice that they're keeping their staff in such high esteem that's the approach that they're taking.
Yep.
I don't like that there's not jiu-jitsu, but also really respect the decision.
Yep. What else do we have in news? We have a full lineup now for the Third Coast Grappling Middleweight Kumite. We got some nice replacement names. We got Gustavo Batista. We got John Combs. We got Pedro Mourinho. We got Ty Rotolo. We got William Tackett. I think William Tackett's actually out, and his brother Andrew Tackett is stepping in.
Oh, interesting.
Which is some gangster shit. We have Pat Downey in that bracket as well.
I'm actually kind of excited for that.
I kind of am too, because depending on how he matches up, if you don't know Pat Downey is a world team wrestler out of the United States. Well, was a world team wrestler out of the United States. Very, very good wrestler. Mm-hmm. And has transitioned over to jiu-jitsu. Friends with Nicky Rod, and has a high amplitude style. He's actually a Baltimore guy, so a lot of guys in the area actually know him.
Yeah.
And have worked with him.
He had a match with had this weird match situation with Gordon a while ago.
Yeah, IBJJF Fanatics. They had a back and forth. They had a wrestling match, freestyle match. Gordon talked about that during his Joe Rogan Experience podcast, which was actually honestly that podcast was pretty interesting. I actually genuinely enjoyed it, and kind of Gordon talking about the state of jiu-jitsu and what was going on. It was enlightening. There wasn't any politics to it. It was actually a good,
maybe I'll have to go catch
good
that
show. If you get a chance to, it's actually worth a listen to. Also, got Oliver Taza. We got some controversy with Taza this week. We're going to talk about later in the show. And we have Pedro Hosha as well. So, curious to see where Pat Downey lines up.
I'm excited to see him in jiu-jitsu.
If you did not see his match at Subversive, he had a super fight with Subversive, and he body locked a guy and then lifted him up and then slammed him. And and Third Coast Grappling also has slams. Yeah. So should be exciting. Very curious
rule
to see.
Set for someone that likes to pick people up.
It is. So very curious to see what Downey looks like. I'm curious to see if he does trials, but we're going to see him doing more jiu-jitsu. So
yeah, he's I think he's stepping away from wrestling for political reasons. I
think so.
So
moving into submission grappling, dude.
Yeah,
a guy when's the last time a dude at that level has transitioned over?
Never. I don't think that's literally never happened in jiu-jitsu. I can't think of a single person. There aren't the odds that a wrestler of his caliber transitions out of wrestling are very low, and it takes a situation such as the situation that he has found himself in to make that happen. And so we
have talked around this in a very
you can figure it out on your own if you want to. But I think it takes a situation exactly like this to get that sort of transition. And so it's going to be really interesting to see if he sticks with it and how he does. Because we have not seen this level of wrestling in jiu-jitsu ever.
God, no.
And I doubt we will ever see this level of wrestling in jiu-jitsu ever again.
It would surprise me. Unless there's a bunch of money that comes into jiu-jitsu, but wrestlers historically haven't had a huge, high world level wrestlers have not had a huge urge to come over to our sport.
Well, after you're done wrestling at that caliber, then you transition. Well, you're broken. You're not competing anymore, but you're also going to transition into coaching, and the coaching roles for wrestlers of that caliber pay very, very well.
Yes.
And so there's no reason to go do jiu-jitsu after you're already broken and you have job opportunities that pay well.
Yes.
So this is a unique scenario, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he does.
So it should be a great lineup. That takes place on, what's the date on that? That's on Fight TV again, June 19th. So not this month, but next month. But again, we have the lineup now. Yeah. I'm curious. I think the bracket comes out this week, which is awesome because I love to be able to actually preview a bracket before we do an event.
Yep.
Unlike Pans this week. Yeah, that doesn't. I don't think I have any other news. Who's number one is in 2 weeks. Card looks great.
Yep.
Gordon versus Panza. I had it up a second ago. I no longer have it up now because
That's okay. We
I
talked
was
about
watching
it a
some
little
Pans
last week.
matches. Josh and I talked about it last week. If you're curious, you can hear us talk at the beginning. The news segment of last week's show is basically us talking about very peripherally the matchup because there wasn't a ton to preview last week. So that's all I got for news. Do you want to move into the 2021 IBJJF
Sure
Pans
do.
results? All right, well, let's move. Let's first caveat this. This is a straight up Grappling Rewind 2017 recap because the stream had tons of issues. A lot of it was unwatchable. A lot of the results are linked wrong. A lot of the matches aren't up. A lot of the matches are linked incorrectly. A lot of the matches we just can't find results. A lot of the camera angles are off. It was
a tough one to watch and commentate on because there was some issues.
It's a shit show. I'm upset at the quality of the event footage we have because like we can't even for instance like we're not gonna be able to talk about the women's featherweight final or not featherweight women's light featherweight final between Maisa Bastos and Sofer Amirante.
Yeah, there's 20 seconds worth of watchable footage that I could find on that.
The rest of it's just a mosaic of like
women's lightweight. The footage was completely gaunt. Like it was just a mosaic of colors and noises. So
and even on the live
thing.
stream for Flow Grappling, a lot of the chat was going, "This is unwatchable." So like the actual the Flow Grappling chat, like
so
people were subscribed.
They must have had some serious internet or streaming type issues going on there. But
put it to card and your SD card and get the footage up. Like it's a premium service. Like between the team, we pay for it $750 a year because all of us have our own subs to Flow Grappling. I'm upset about this show that we're about to give you because we don't have all the results, and that just pisses me off.
But we're gonna do the best we can with what we were able to watch. Which I was actually able to find most of the matches, and a lot of the matches that had some very serious streaming issues. Some of those serious streaming issues were happening during periods where the match wasn't. Well, I think it doesn't seem very exciting, you know.
And we found some highlights on Instagram. So we've pieced together most of
a
it,
show.
But it is just if there are bits that are like incorrect or bits that are like wonky in how we covered this, my apologies.
Yeah.
It was, I am upset at the quality of event that we had access to at this time. With that being done, let's move into the results. Where do you want to start? Want to start with the heavyweights first?
Yeah, I always start on the top.
Let's go in reverse order this week.
I always like starting with the heavyweights.
So open class?
So the open class was closed out. Teammate closeout in the finals.
Vigorous closeout.
Vigorous closeout.
Something we
haven't seen in a while. You know, I think some of the team closeouts, so mostly Atos, have actually been doing the matches the past couple.
We've talked about this ad nauseum. I
majors,
hate closeouts.
Not a
makes
fan
the
either.
Sport look unprofessional,
especially at the absolute level. Like in absolute, I hate closeouts the most because it's actually, I don't know, it's the bracket that I look forward to most, and to see it closed out.
It's the pinnacle. It's the pinnacle of the sport. It's like who's the baddest dude today?
Yeah,
and it just like cool. You closed out.
Great.
I get you on the same team. I understand the reasons why you would do that.
Yep.
I just think it diminishes the value of the competition of the sport, which is why ADCC doesn't do it, which is why AJP doesn't do it, which is why other organizations are moving away from closeouts because it just makes it a joke.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, so we have a closeout in the absolute division, but luckily the rest of the divisions weren't closeouts, and so we'll move to ultra heavy.
Men's ultra heavyweight.
Which is a pretty good match.
Final match between Victor Hugo and Tex Johnson, Aaron Tex Johnson. For some reason, I feel like these guys have trained together. I don't know why I have that in my head. I think Tex was very briefly at, not Lovato's, at Six Blades for like, right after he left Unity. For some reason, I think he went there. I don't know why I think they trained together. I could be wrong about that, but I think Tex is repping Alliance now, which is actually what he repped back when he was with Lepre back like 2011, I think, around there. When he's
been all over the place.
Yeah, he pops around a lot. So again, just kind of a side note. For some reason, I think they have trained together. Tex opens the match with two illegal guard pulls.
Yeah, 2 illegal guard pulls, 2 penalties, and that would actually, in the end, is what gets him the match because despite it being an exciting match, it was really back and forth.
The illegal guard pulls, by the way, if you're not familiar with IBJJF, you have to have contact with the person before you pull, and that means like you're holding on to them.
Yeah.
In the Roosterweight division, funny enough, match opens with what I would call an illegal guard pull, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, sure.
When we move into the Roosterweight division, it wasn't called a illegal guard pull, but Tex here gets 2 penalties
in a row,
pulling without.
And actually,
grips.
I thought that Hugo's strategy on this was pretty interesting because he knew that Tex was going to be pulling, and he knew that this was an option, and so Tex tries to pull, gets these 2 penalties, and then Hugo does a really nice job, sort of keeping distance, not in a way where he's not in a way where he's like stalling, but just
he's not
keeping
doing that
enough
outside lane where you're just touching and pushing off.
Yeah.
He's in the weird.
He's in that middle
far
ground,
range,
but
it's not middle distance. It's the far range distance, but where you can still engage, where the guy has to you're close enough where the guy has to come into you, but too far away where he can come in effectively and start locking you down.
He was at a distance that made it so that if Tex wanted to pull guard again without really engaging like he was trying to, he would have had to take a third penalty, and Tex couldn't do that. And so I think it disrupted Tex's entries a little bit.
Because at a third penalty, you give 2 points to your opponent, and IBJJF, and a fourth, you get DQ.
Yeah.
So
Tex was aware, I think, that the penalties were there. And
Tex competes enough in all rules where
sure.
he understands what he can and can't do. And, tactically, Tex is not a guy that's usually going to beat you on an ad. And so him getting 2 penalties honestly isn't. I think when you do 2 penalties, it's an ad to your opponent, and the third one is points to your opponent. Sorry.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
But so he plays this nice game where Tex has to pull guard in a way that he doesn't want to, and it's clear that he doesn't want to. But that doesn't actually make that much of a difference. Just a thing that I noticed strategically that I think Hugo was doing sort of intentionally after those first 2 penalties.
Was really interesting to me as well, where you saw that really nice distance, because we watched both these guys enough where you kind of really know the game they want to play.
And you know what Tex is going to do.
Yeah, and also you kind of know what Hugo's going to do.
Sure.
From the top, we've been seeing more of his top game, but I know, again, historically, Hugo is just a monster from the bottom, so it is cool to see him engage with a guy that is as dangerous as Tex is on the bottom, and then maintain that weird, distance where it's like you're forcing the bottom player, especially with a guy that wants to underhook your leg like Tex does, to have to overextend to really get what he wants.
But I think he overplayed that hand once they were actually in open guard. I think Hugo overplayed that hand a little bit where he was keeping that distance a bit too much, and so he was respecting the leg entanglements that we know that Tex is looking for and is incredible with. And so what ends up happening is Tex is able to sort of abruptly and quickly scoot in under our sort of hook around the back of Hugo's knee and pull his knee into his chest, and Hugo sits his butt back a little bit, starting to try to defend the entanglements, and then Tex inverts backwards, and so that Hugo dropping his weight to defend the entanglement put all of his weight into that knee that Tex had, and then Tex is able to take that weight and just sort of gently carry it back behind him, and he gets the sweep out of it. And so I thought it was, again, another really nice strategic element of the match where Tex probably noticed that Hugo was playing his distance and really avoiding the leg entanglements, and
he's not
took advantage of that.
He's not going to be able to make the space into Hugo's hips. He needs to get into the heel hooks he wants or the knee bars that he wants. And so he's like, okay, cool, you're at this range. I'm going to use it to sweep and to get points on you. So then you're forced now to engage with more because you're down on points. So really interesting, really well-paid strategy on Tex's part there, because it's, you take what your opponent is giving you as a result of the game you play and being able to have some diversity and, and making points. That's really weird way to say that. And scoring points as a result of it. Yeah,
it was nice. But that puts Hugo up, or puts Tex up 2 points. And then so Tex is playing the top a little bit. I think he gets an ad for a near pass, but isn't actually able to pass at any point. And then
good luck with Hugo on his back and his guard. Right. Good luck passing Victor Hugo.
Exactly. And then Victor Hugo does Victor Hugo stuff and starts to invert for a knee bar, and Tex does a really nice job defending, but in order to defend, he needs to sit on his butt. He sits on his butt, Hugo gets the sweep. They end up tied up 2-2.
With one ad.
And then Tex loses on those 2 penalty points. So it was a really good match. It was very technical. I mean, Hugo's knee bar was also extremely nicely placed. And
we know Hugo is so... that's how we won Nogi Worlds versus Cyborg, was with a knee bar like that. I always forget it's weighted absolute. For some reason, I think it was absolute, but I'm not sure. I always get that wrong. But we've seen Victor Hugo knee bar a fair share of people. It's we know he's dangerous, and Tex did a good job identifying that Hugo is super dangerous, and there also Hugo is gigantic.
Yes.
So... yeah, fun match, honestly. One of the more enjoyable matches of the tournament for me, just because of the back and forth it had.
Yeah, it was nice.
Men's super heavyweight. We had Devontae Johnson versus Ronaldo Maidana. Devontae gets it done 4-0 over Maidana.
Watched the wrong match on this one.
Yeah, I couldn't find the match on this one either. Yeah. So, moving on to the male heavyweight division, we have, I can never say this guy's name. We don't cover him a ton. I actually think this is the first time that we'll cover him on the show. Gianna Carlo Bordi versus Lucas Hulk Barbosa. They actually fought a couple of times. They fought in the open weight and they fought in the men's heavyweight. And Hulk actually loses this one, but then is able to avenge it in the open weight for this. Zach, you got notes for this one?
Yeah, so Bodoni, I think... That's how I'm pronouncing it. At least
Let's call it Bordoni because again, none of the flow zone matches. Well, none of the flow zone matches with commentary are up,
so I can't get the names from them. And this is not someone that we've seen before. We looked up his
BJJ Heroes record.
BJJ Heroes record, but he is a lot of IBJJF stuff.
A lot of only IBJJF stuff.
Yeah, and a recent black belt.
Yeah, recent black belt in 2020. He has a bunch of wins at Brown and IBJJF, but he's just an American Nationals no-gi guy in the IBJJF, which is kind of a interesting place to be. And now we don't see a ton of guys like that.
He wins the heavyweight division here. Honestly, what I was most impressed with, like from an outside perspective, not seeing him much or at all really in the past, his wrestling looked really solid. Like he was playing a really nice wrestling game.
I'm curious to see.
He didn't get like a takedown necessarily, but he looked very nicely defensive, and his movement was really good.
I'm curious if he is a wrestler prior, has some
that would have been my guess, was that he had some
wrestling,
background in wrestling. But either way,
which would make sense
good.
if he's only a no-gi guy.
Sure.
And you want to do the best. You want to do like the largest no-gi events, which are going to be the IBJJF events. So that kind of would make sense. Again, I don't know a ton about him, but he's a guy that I'm going to look into now, given you just took a Pan's a weight victory over Barbosa.
Yeah.
Like that means
that means something.
You're got to watch.
It means something. And maybe this projects him or sends him into doing other events that we'll cover him more on, once you take this title.
He's young. I think he's like 25 or something like that, 26. So wouldn't surprise me to see much more of him as a new black belt.
So a lot of hand fighting in this. Bodoni ends up pulling guard after they both get penalty points for stalling during hand fighting, which I thought was actually a really stupid double penalty. I didn't think it was stalling.
They hand fought there was a while.
But it's gone longer for
it
these
has,
types of
but
matches.
I think it was
weird.
I think it was definitely. I actually agreed with the penalty. It was like they were doing that thing where it's like neither guy is gonna go. You're just both waiting and you're doing just enough hand fighting to be hand fighting.
Yeah,
but
sure.
No one's looking to go. You're both stalling.
Either way, it doesn't make a big a difference in the match because they both get the penalty point.
It's an even stalling penalty.
Like the stream craps out, and I'm assuming Bodoni pulled guard because there were no points awarded. It was just like fuzz for a while, and then they were on the ground, and Bodoni was on his back, and he legitimately threatened a triangle at one point, which is not something you see very often against Hulk. And it wasn't like a.
Didn't Maidana triangle Hulk at third coast?
He has, okay. But still, it's not a common occurrence.
No, and that's why it was such a big deal.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I don't think it was like a real like Hulk is gonna tap here kind of threat, but it was enough that he had to respect it and defend it.
Yeah.
And then there were some other good sub attempts, and there was like a straight arm lock attempt, there's a straight arm lock attempt from the guard from Bodoni, and a couple other legitimate attempts. And I think he was their aggressor in most cases. There was one point when Hulk had a straight ankle lock, I think, or maybe it was a heel hook. He had an ankle lock of some kind, heel hook, straight ankle lock that was sort of legitimate and had to be respected and defended. So we're talking about this like it's a fight to win kind of match because it ends up being a ref's decision,
right?
And so you're counting up aggression and
IBJJF ref decisions are weird now.
Super weird.
Well, because I don't know how they score.
Do they know how they score it?
No, obviously no. we know that.
Well, you get your points for being Brazilian.
Yep.
And then on top of that, I think that you get some points for being the aggressor. And then you get some points for submission attempts.
I need to go back and read the rules again because I'm talking
not
about
like
the rules.
points, but like they get acknowledged for those.
Yeah, you get points in the eyes of the ref for a decision on even points in the scoring.
Yeah.
But IBJJF referees' decisions are always like weird. And I think Drysdale a couple years ago on the World Stream talked about exactly how the IBJJF scores, and it's like, okay, if you're in they favor the guard work if you're doing this, they favor the top player if you're doing this. It's like, and it's like a way, and he talked about throughout the years how the point scoring and the decisions had shifted from like what IBJJF was looking for, and I don't know where you can find it, but it was really interesting to hear a guy that has world titles like Drysdale talk about basically specifically what the IBJJF criteria for a referee's decision is, because he obviously knows it and has been around for a very long time.
He's the kind of guy that's super deeply involved in that kind of stuff.
And he's part of the rules committee. I mean, all those top black belt guys are part of the rules committee for IBJJF, and he's the actual guy that was one of the first people to publicly talk about them allowing heel hooks.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because I had heard it in 2018 that there was a rumor that was like, they're doing
rumors
it.
From
and then
2010.
And then in early 2019, he was one of the first guys to say like, we had a meeting, and like Coprito said no, everyone else said yes.
But yeah, so Bodoni ends up winning by referee's decision, and like by like my scoring standards, which are probably not IBJJF scoring standards because I'm used to watching other things. I think that was a legitimate call, and so it's a weird way to win Worlds. It's a weird way to get a win.
Pans.
Or sorry, Pans. It's a weird way to
so the
win
entire
Pans.
the entire pre-show, Zach was like, Worlds, look, this is Pans.
Yeah, I just kept calling it the wrong
Worlds,
thing.
this is Pans. Zach, did you watch Worlds? Like, no, I watched Pans. Okay.
Yeah, Worlds.
Worlds.
So it's a weird way to get a Pans title. Kind of a weird way to beat Lucas Barbosa, but like I think it's legitimate. Like you can always argue about these things, but I think it was a legitimate win, and it'll be interesting to see what comes of Bodoni.
I'm super curious as like a newer black belt that I'm not familiar with. Like that's always really exciting for me. I'm like, ooh, who's this guy that's beating top level guys that I don't know about?
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. It's like it's exciting. Like,
it's exciting.
These are always exciting results for me. So moving on to the male medium heavyweight division, we have Jefferson Gularsi. How do you say that, Zach? You're not the name guy. Garassi. Defeating Andrew Wiltsey of Daisy Fresh fame and all of that with being pushed hard by Flo.
Couldn't find the video.
I found it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. It was a whole lot of Wiltsey on the bottom in open butterfly guard, and Jefferson keeping his distance, kind of trying to pass, trying to move around, being the aggressor throughout the match. Not a whole lot really happens in the match. Neither guy can get a lot of stuff going, and Jefferson takes an activity, like actively looking to pass and progress position victory over Wiltsey, and that's
a referee's decision.
Yeah, I thought it was a very very reasonable referee's decision, just because Wiltsey was.
Well, we've seen that from Wiltsey before, right? If he's not, he has matches where he looks excellent, and really pushes the pace and pushes his game plan.
Yeah.
We've also seen that when he can't push his game plan, you end up with these sort of very slow, stally, in and out, nothing happening kind of matches.
That was very much the match that we got here.
Yeah.
But again, it's sort of like nothing. We didn't learn a ton. I would have liked to kind of see more from both guys. But that's sort of where the match went. Yeah. And Jefferson takes a very reasonable ref decision over Wiltsey here.
Okay.
On to male middleweight. We have Mateus Gabriel versus Victor Hugo. It's funny, Mateus Gabriel at
Victor,
middleweight.
Hugo Marquise.
Hugo Marquise. I saw Hugo and my brain was like, Victor, that's the only Hugo
that would be a very interesting match.
It's like, how did Hugo make middleweight? Well, he's missing a leg now. And
I think even if you took a leg from Hugo, he probably still wouldn't make middleweight.
I think Hugo's legit like 265.
Yeah, he's up there.
260 or something like that.
He's a big guy.
And what's middleweight? Like 190? Something like that?
Lower than that. I think medium heavy is the 191.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you take a leg and a half from Hugo, he's barely making it. So Mateus Gabriel, again, historically a featherweight or like lightweight, but
yeah, lightweight, I think.
Interesting to see him at middleweight going up versus Hugo Marquez.
So double guard pull, standard Mateus Gabriel.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Start. During that, after that double guard pull, Marquis comes to the top. Gabriel attempts an inversion for a knee bar and ends up in a leg entanglement. Marquis hits a loose but actually sort of threatening outside heel hook, but Gabriel is able to roll out of it and sort of like off the mat. And sort of as they're going towards the edge of the mat, Gabriel's defending this heel hook. Marquis is sort of on his feet.
Marquez, by the way.
Marquez?
Yeah.
Okay, Marquez. We'll go with that. Marquez is sort of standing and turning. He stands up and starts trying to like the runaway escape from this situation after he releases the heel hook, and Mateus Gabriel is able to grab an ankle and stands up with the ankle like right at the right time where you would need to get this call. And then as he stands up, Marquez.
Yes.
Marquez.
You can call him Hugo, by the way. That's fine.
We'll call him Hugo. So as he stands up, Hugo gets a little bit off balance, takes like 2 hops. They're already on the edge of the mat. Those 2 hops end up off the mat, and Mateus Gabriel gets the 2 points for the takedown run off the mat situation. They restart them standing, but he got those 2 points for the like run off the mat situation,
it's weird. I understand that calling it for. I do like this call for the reason that it stops a lot of that bullshit we see at the edge. Not where it's like guys all of a sudden like, 2 steps and they're gonna make it. They're gonna kind of play the game and like push me out. Not like I like that IBJJF is going too far with the call now because it's gonna stop a lot of that. Like edge playing is horrible to watch, and I think it's bad for the sport. It's bad for like
agreed.
It's bad for like what is good grappling is watching guys just play the edge. And I think the new set of rules for 2021 for IBJJF that addresses that, and like there were a lot of really good steps forward in the rules for 2021 that were changed in the IBJJF. And I think this particular call is not the right call, but I do appreciate why the rules were changed. I
think it's fine. I think it's fine. It just feels a little off because
we're so used to like.
Well, it was a very defensible situation. I actually kind of prefer like back in the fucking day, like early IBJJF stuff. They had edges of the mat, but they weren't really respected. Like, they kind of let things go unless you were, like, going onto the cement. If you were going into like, when I did my first IBJJF tournament, it was, like, Pans in maybe 2009 or 10 or something like that. Like, it was just, if you ended up on another mat, they would wait until things settled down. Like, you could run into another match, and they would just let it go.
One thing I noticed, we're seeing a little more of that this year and last year.
It seemed like it. They let them go a little further.
They do.
Not like it used to be, but they
used
were
to have that
further.
hard call at the line, and now, like, especially for the Michael Galvão match in the brown belt division, a couple of those transitions, I'm like, these guys would have been, like, called like 2 years ago. Like,
but I like that.
I like
that. You let it get to a place where people feel comfortable. Because, like, this one, Hugo not easily, but Hugo definitely could have defended against this single leg. Like, it wasn't so strong that I thought he was going to go down no matter what. He was hopping fine. He had control of his weight.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm not convinced that he would have gone down or that he even needed to go out of bounds to defend it, right? And so, like, what you want to do with these types of rules is prevent people from running out of bounds when they're going to go down.
Yes.
I don't think that was the case here. And if they would have just let it go like an extra 4 or 5 feet, we would have had an answer to that.
Yeah.
You know?
Again, I think I
better than it was, though.
I agree with the changes that got made. Like, I'm happy that this was a point score because it stops a lot of that, like, if that, this, and it just stops a lot of that wiggle room that used to be in sort of the sport, and guys would play the edge, and it's like, cool, you get an ad for, like, a clear double leg that you had in the air and turn the corner, but 1 foot left the side of the mat a little bit, and so it's not counted. Now it's like, it counts.
Yeah.
So guys can't defend out, and I appreciate that they've changed that.
I like that change, too, and I think that in 90% of situations, I'm going to be happy about the calls that happen because of that rule change.
I can also deal with push out. This is the one, like a push out too. It's like it's almost the same thing as a push out now. A push out in wrestling is basically if you have control of your opponent and you push them out of bounds, you get points for that.
Yeah.
And so IBJJF sort of has almost created that situation for certain takedowns, which I don't have a problem with.
No,
Honestly.
I don't. I don't have a problem with the ruling. It feels a little off because there was like very questionable in a finals match of Worlds where I would have liked like our Pans. Damn it again. I would have liked to see like an extra 2 feet of motion to figure out what was going to happen there. But because what ends up happening is that those are the only points scored in the match. Mateus Gabriel ends up winning off of that. And actually, Hugo looked pretty good against Mateus in this. Like, there was some really nice passing attempts. He gets some ads for almost passes. There's also a weird situation where after this takedown and the points happen, Mateus Gabriel looks. I don't know what's happening, honestly. But so like, Hugo is aggressively passing, like putting the fucking pressure on.
Yeah, and then you have to score.
Right, he has to score. He's putting the pressure on, and he's moving, and he looks good. And then there's a pause, maybe because they were close to the edge of the mat, but then Mateus Gabriel is like complaining about his foot or toe or something, and there's like a 6-minute interval. And then they come back, and all of a sudden, Mateus Gabriel's not having as much trouble defending these really aggressive, fast, speedy passes. And like, not to say that he made up I'm not by any means implying that he made up an injury to give himself time off. Like, I believe that
recovery time.
To give himself recovery time.
Right.
I believe that there was some sort of injury or something like that, but they were able to keep the match going, and it definitely impacted, in my opinion, it impacted how the match played out because Mateus Gabriel looked better after that 6-minute break than before.
Mateus Gabriel is an extremely crafty competitor that uses and understands the rules very, very well and gets the win as a result. Yeah. Like, again, if you like, you don't like it, and
I'm not saying that he was being crafty. I'm not at all saying that was some strategic decision. It did make an impact.
I'm saying that he is crafty and he does use the rules to his. Like, other guys super crafty is Shane Jamil Taylor. Like, those guys understand the rules to the nth degree. Like, I remember being backstage at Fight to Win in Baltimore and hearing Shane explain the new 2019 rules to his teammate for IBJJF. Like, oh yeah, this no longer counts. You have to do this. Like, and it was super intricate little details, but he was explaining to his brown belt teammate like what needed to get done now to score points under the new rules because he understood them really, really well. Mateus Gabriel is another one of those guys that like really, really understands what it takes to score. So, fun match. Again, I like the changing of the takedowns for IBJJF.
I'm good with it.
And then we're now seeing it, at big events.
I definitely prefer it to the way that it was.
Oh, yeah. he couldn't have gotten worse.
Yeah.
Men's light. You anything else on that one?
Nope, that's it.
Men's lightweight, you have Gianni Grippo defeating Johnny Tama in the finals here. Dude, Grippo had a hell of a run at
Grippo,
Pans. Southern people.
I don't sleep on Grippo that much, but he has not looked as good as he has in the past for the past, like, I don't know, years. Two. I was going to say two, but maybe three. He has been less dominant, less impressive than he was, but he looked like old Grippo here. He looked really good. I was really happy to see.
He had a pacing about him in this one that, like, we just haven't seen from him in a little bit here. Like, we saw him at Up Your Game a little bit ago, and he took his first submission loss since, like, 2013 by, I think, was it Michael Galvao?
Yeah.
Or I think it was
something like that.
Galvao. Again, had a new prospect, and came back and stomped dudes in no-gi pans. This match was a super fun match. A lot of work from both guys on both directions. Grippo does a really... I love how Grippo stops the entries into the leg entanglements from Tama.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to bring up. Like, there's a really nice exchange where Johnny Tama is... They sort of start in like a double straight ankle lock kind of setup, and then Tama goes face down and ends up in this sort of like face down outside ashi sort of position.
Yeah, but the knee is a little low. It doesn't have full knee control when he gets there.
Yeah, he doesn't. And Grippo's able to take advantage of that and notices it, sits his hips to the side, and then gets like almost a high seatbelt sort of grip, gets his arm over, and then is able to climb up his back. It takes him a little while, and he uses, like, this is what I was saying. It was watching Grippo in this match looked really impressive. He uses really nice control of Tama, who's not taking it easy and is trying to get out of the situation.
Not an easy guy to control, and a guy that
not
historically
control,
competes up in weight versus stronger guys, so is used to, like, guys trying to hold him in positions.
Yeah, and so he's able to sort of get this, like, this grip over the shoulder, and then he climbs up, and he ends up with one hook in for a couple minutes and is sort of riding Johnny Tama's back with only a single hook in, and he never gets the second hook in, so he doesn't get the points for that. But in order to escape that position, Tama has to, like, resort to laying on his back,
doing that big turn and like getting your back flat to the mat, because it's when you get your back flat to the mat, it scrapes the other person off of your back, because they usually can't follow if you lead with the first shoulder and then slide over. Somebody can't get underneath the mat on you, and so it's a really common thing, but it leads to you getting mounted.
And well, no, he didn't end up getting mounted.
Sorry, it usually leads to you getting mounted.
But what ends up happening here is just that Grippo was on top at the beginning of this whole, or as on the bottom, technically on the bottom at the beginning of this whole exchange, and then he ends up on top. And so he gets the 2 points for the sweep after this whole back take almost exchange thing, and then they're in 50-50 for a little while.
Which is now a dangerous position, which I'm, again,
happy about.
We saw no 50-50
There was no 50-50 butt touching at all and I appreciated that.
There was a bunch of matches I watched this weekend that were like, all of a sudden 50-50 is terrifying, and I'm like, yes, this is how it should be. This is
how it should be. It all should be like that in the gi.
It should be.
In my
I think
firm opinion.
You or I are very much of the heel hooks in the gi, like, go for it.
I might be the only black belt that I know that isn't like, that's crazy at this point, but also
I think a lot of, like, there's a couple, I've talked to, like, newer black belts. Like, I've talked to way old school guys that are like, I don't give a shit. And, like,
I was doing heel hooks in the gi in a white belt back in my day. We were in white belts doing heel hooks in the gi.
I was too. Actually, no. When I first started, it was banned. You couldn't heel hook in the gym. And then later, when I did more MMA, it was like, they're punching me in the face. I'm gonna heel hook some guys.
Yeah, for sure.
And with those shin guards, it's amazing. There's so much leverage.
But they're in 50-50, and Grippo does a nice job keeping weight in the foot that Tama has the 50-50 grip on.
Yeah.
And so he stays really heavy, into that foot, and Johnny eventually inverts into like an outside ashi position again with the straight ankle grip, and uses the straight ankle grip to get the inversion sweep. But then Grippo responds almost immediately by like locking the like under knee grip in, one that you would use for like a calf crusher kind of position. Like he's got his arm in underneath the knee, and he stands up with it. And I love this sweep because it's very simple. Like he just gets a grip and stands up,
but it's so hard to stop.
It's impossible to stop. It's so frustrating as the person on the bottom, because and really all this is he keeps Tama's bottom knee off the mat, right? And you need your bottom knee on the mat if you're gonna move.
You have to post it in order to like lean off.
You have to push weight off of it.
When they lift it up, you're like, oh cool, like I'm in this dumb position that I should have all of this leverage and all of this distance.
But you don't.
and I can't because my hip is up and my knee is up, and I'm like, awesome, I just can't move now.
Yeah, and Grippo does a really nice job with the very simple, like, fundamental technique of not letting their bottom leg be on the mat, and he holds the knee up, stands up, Tama can't get it back down in time, Grippo settles into the top position, gets the 2 points for that sweep, and then wins 4-2.
There was some really great work from Tom on the bottom here that I loved, and it was Thomas tries to enter a couple times in the leg locks, and Grippo does a really good job with the leg that is on the left-hand side that is facing the camera. Instead of essentially stepping up over into 50-50, he does a really good job of keeping the instep and the front of his ankle and shin behind Tama's mat side knee. So Tama goes to like invert underneath, and Grippo has his leg pushed in front or pushed behind Tama's knee, the standing leg. And so it's this nice little block that someone can't invert under you if they have an overhook grip under your knee or calf to lean you over, because you essentially create a brace between their arm and the bottom leg that they're trying to pull you under with. And it's just this nice little like balanced step movement between having your foot forward and closer to the opponent's ribs versus behind their leg. And it's just so nice to see, like, at speed, and Grippo makes the adjustment a couple different times, and Tama keeps trying to go under, and Grippo just keeps kind of stopping the entry, and it's just nice to see. I'm happy that we're seeing Grippo kind of come back to, like, old school form and get Nogi Pan's victory at lightweight.
So he looked great, too.
Yeah, excited. And again, he has a bunch of subs. I think 3 subs at least this weekend. I think Tama's the only guy in his division he didn't sub. Like,
he looked solid.
Yeah, Grippo's back.
Solid all weekend.
That's awesome. I'm a huge fan of Grippo. I'm very happy that he has, seems to have turned it around in this event. So that's awesome. Men's featherweight, we have Diego Oliveira versus Josh Systemos in the final.
Yep.
Very quick match. 50-50 entry. Pato turns the angle very nicely and then hits what starts out as a standard like 50-50 backside knee bar, and then Systemos turns his hips in and sort of goes to square. Pato kind of follows, but also kind of does the knee bar to the side of the leg too. And it's a super rare knee bar. I call it a lateral knee bar. And whenever I kind of talk about and teach knee bars, I always mention that, like, unless you turn the leg all the way through and go from basically the force being put into the back of your knee joint, the front of your knee joint, and then it being put into the front of your knee joint, if your leg is still on the side, they can still knee bar the side of your knee. And so
as long as you can't bend it.
Yes. And so a lot of people like get their leg 30% through the spin, and then they think they're good because it's way harder. But if you switch your grip, you can come up sideways to the knee joint.
The thing with this is that Pato didn't even need to switch his grip. He had the overhook on the shin from the get-go, right? And so, like, if you're doing the knee bar version where you're, like, gable gripped on it and you have it over your shoulder, which is a common way to hit these knee bars, then, like, it's going to be kind of challenging to make the adjustment. If you're hitting the knee bar version where you have an overhook on the leg, which is always super tight, and Pato's had control of Cisneros' hips with both of his feet. Like, it is just
the transition here is
such
beautiful.
It's a beautiful knee bar. And it's just tight. And I thought, I mean, I'm not in a world championship match, right?
Pants.
Like, damn it.
Are you fucking with me now or no?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yes, I am fucking with you.
I didn't know. I was like,
no, I'm still doing it on accident. I'm just an idiot. If you're in like a Pan's title match, right? I'm probably going to wait a little long to tap and make sure it's in. But that looked so tight to me. I felt like I saw it entering and I was like, oh, he should be tapping right now. I was like, I saw him entering the position. I saw the feet get set up and I thought, oh, he should be tapping. And then there was like another second. I was like, oh, he should definitely be tapping
Only
now.
about a second though.
And then like one more second and then he taps and then I think his knee exploded.
And then he does the roll where it's like, oh, my leg exploded. And I was like, fuck, Josh Systemos, you're so exciting. Why do you got to do this?
He's like one of my favorite grapplers in the sport right now. I'm really hoping that this is.
Because he's just exciting. Like, he's fun to cover. He's a young, new black belt with like legitimately really good skill. Yeah. And I was like, no, why does your leg have to blow up? Because like leg injuries are always really long. And it's like,
Yeah, well, I'm hoping it wasn't as bad. I'm hoping it was one of those that felt worse than it actually was. Because those happen.
Hoping it's a sprain.
Yeah, hoping the sprain.
Hoping we're good.
So,
but dude, Diego Oliveira, that transition, and it was quick too. It was like what, 30 seconds?
Yeah,
and
it was
like
a fast
right
match.
Off the beginning. It was like 9:21.
Yeah,
is what's left in the match when it finishes.
It was a smooth transition, beautiful submission. Pato looked great.
Yeah. Again, want to see more from Pato. Hope Systemos heals up well. Again, both of these guys are guys that we enjoy covering on the show. Just unfortunate it ends in an injury, but
yeah.
Actually, you should go back and watch this because the transition here and the level of control that Pato has is awesome.
Really
I'm also
nice.
a big fan of knee bars, so I think watching the intricacies of knee bar technique, and also the camera is focused like really well, so you can actually see the hand position and see the leg position really well in this. So there's a lot to take away and learn for why it's kind of an effective position. So,
yeah, agreed.
Moving on to men's light featherweight, Paula Meow versus Carlos Alberto Silva.
Yeah. So
this was fun as fuck.
This was a good match. This was my favorite match of the entire weekend.
I would agree. I said that already, but I think this is the one that's actually more fun.
Yeah, this is the nicest. This is my favorite match in that weekend.
This was that hot fire vintage Paula Meow, doing Paula Meow stuff. Not even doing Paula Meow stuff.
Not even
just
doing, no, he's doing Paula Meow stuff. Just doing stuff that I've never seen from him, but looking real fucking solid with it.
Oh, you mean holding the body, trying to go from the back for 4 minutes?
4 minutes, yeah, crazy. But actually, before that,
never got the points. We're just like, I'm just gonna be on your back going for this. Didn't need him. Armbar off the top.
He was already up. He might as well just maintain the position. I guess
Paula Meow's a guy that dude understand world champion. Like dude understands how to score and keep your score.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't need to do more.
But the way that he scored was actually my favorite part about this whole match. And so he is in half guard, but like not the half guard you want to be in. It's like
not the half guard you want to be in.
Yeah.
Paula May, I was like, this is fine.
Yeah, he was, of course. But he was like kind of extended a little bit, right? Like his hips were sort of flat on the mat and he was a little bit extended, and his outside leg was not like knee across. He wasn't like knee shielded. His outside leg was kind of straightened out and like tucked behind Silva. And so, but what he does with this is he straightens that leg like straight up into the air. And he has it in Silva's armpit and sort of pushes Silva's arm up a little bit as he brings his legs straight up in the air. And while he does that, he reaches his arm underneath his own butt and gets Silva's outside leg or inside leg.
Yeah.
He gets the leg that is inside the half guard. He gets that underhooked with his arm while he's extending Silva up, straight up.
This is such a frustrating position to be in because you make one adjustment, somebody gets underneath you. As soon as that foot goes into the arm, you're like, cool, I can't make the space to stack back into you, and now he's underneath me.
Yeah. And so then once he gets underneath there and once he has that underhook, he takes that leg that he had straightened him out with, and he drops the knee down in between Silva's crotch and then hooks one foot around the outside. So he's got his knee sort of, it's almost like a single leg, it's almost like an X guard position.
Yeah.
Like that foot is lined up like an X guard, but instead of being on the far hip, it's on the same side hip. Like the foot hook is on the same side hip and the knee's behind the leg. But he still has that underhook. And so then he uses the underhook to maintain the leg and keep Silva from stepping back and defending the sweep.
Because you have essentially the X guard hook on the outside, so you can't move, and you're like in this weird stood up position, sort of where it's like I can't get away from you, I can't stack into you, and Paula Meow is underneath me.
And then he uses that X guard hook kind of thing happening to pressure into the hips and gets the sweep.
Yeah,
it's a little bit murky. Not murky, but he's a little bit uneasy after the sweep because there's like a lot of entanglement happening.
Yeah.
But he definitely comes up and he very impressively settles into this top position while holding the legs. It's like not an ideal situation.
Yeah.
He's still on his butt. He needs to get his feet underneath him. But he like settles in and makes sure that Silva can't get himself back
tack out and tack away. Basically, do the thing they just push on your shoulders and face and like scoot out and get up again, where it's like doesn't count as a sweep because it didn't like you never settled it, and does a really good job maintaining that and like fighting the angles with Silva in this position with the legs up, where it's like you're in that level where it's like both guys are going to fight super hard because both guys can either score or stop the score if they fight hard enough.
Yep.
And both of them drive, and Paulo just goes, gonna hold it.
Paulo Meow.
And he keeps coming up, and then just is able to score.
Yeah, it's a really, really nice sweep, worth watching. I'm gonna try to steal this from him if I can. I don't know if I have the mobility for it, but I have found myself in similar positions before and don't really have a very good answer for it. And I'm going to see if I can steal this.
I like the entry to this because if you put your leg under the arm like that, it tends to get people to posture up heavy and you can enter into X guard. So I like the X guard entry to here. The way that he does it, I am not nearly good enough to pull off, where it's like he has like outside control and like doesn't have control on both legs. But I like this as like an entry because you knock him over a little bit and then they will give up to let you get an extra.
Yeah, sure.
So it's a really nice entry that way.
But then after this sweep happens, Paulo is actually working a shit ton of stack passing, which we've seen him do before, but not to at least in my recollection.
We haven't seen him do it in a while. I think the last time we saw him before ADCC, he was doing a ton. Him and his brother were actually doing a ton of like stack passing.
Okay.
Or like when you saw, I was like, ooh, look at that. The Meows are like really putting time into their passing.
Yeah. I mean, I know they were passing, but like this particular brand of passing, I don't necessarily remember, but I could just not be.
I remember a lot in like 2019.
Sure.
We saw like a different style of passing that was more stack pass oriented.
That makes sense.
Is at least in my head when I remember like seeing it. I don't remember seeing it a ton before that. I could be wrong, and someone probably gonna send me an Instagram message and like correct us on that. But that's when I remember like seeing it most. So it's cool to see him kind of maintain that set of skills into 2021.
And then more Meow shit. While he's stack passing, Silva starts trying to come underneath to invert, and he does like get a nice grip on Meow's knee and starts to get inverted. And it looks like he might be able to start generating some speed. Or generating some speed to get into the knee bar, generating some pressure to get into some sweeping positions.
And then Paulo be a wizard.
Yeah. He backsteps over top of Silva's torso. Like, the traditional backsteps we see are usually in the clear space away from the person.
Yeah.
He fully steps over Silva's torso, settles his hips down, grabs a seatbelt grip off of his backstep that shouldn't have worked in the first place. I mean, it obviously should work.
I have a funny story after this. So.
It's not something that I would teach people to do.
This is something I particularly screwed around with in the gym for like a month. Could never get it to work.
Yeah, makes sense.
Even in like trying and drilling, hey, do this here, do this. Like, couldn't get it to work just in drilling. I had to work a couple times where it's like, okay, that's not ever going to work for anyone. And then I saw it and I went, oh, it works for your Paula Meow. Yeah. Like, this is not
right.
fair.
It was one of those things that
It was one of those things that I was like, this is probably garbage. And I tried it for like a while to see if there was something there, and like it never worked. And then I watched Paula Meow do it here, and I went, apparently it does work if you're Paula Meow, which I'm not. And so my initial assessment of the way that he does this it's not a back step, it's a forward step over the body.
Yeah, it's magic. He does wizardry shit. And then gets that seatbelt after settling his hips in, and then with the seatbelt grip, he's able to climb up and grab a figure four, so a body triangle on Silva, and then sits in that body triangle for 4 minutes or so. And that's pretty much the end of the match because Meow holds a body triangle for about 4 minutes, and nothing else happens. But nothing else needs to happen because he scored his 2 points and then fucking put on a dominant performance with the body triangle and maintained it forever.
What I loved, him having that body triangle, he was trying. You can see he was kind of trying to get points, thinking about it, and then towards the end of it, you saw him just like, I'm just gonna ride this out. Like he goes from having that body triangle leg low and like out and trying to like transition the leg inside to get the hooks in, and then figures out like I'm just gonna hold this. He kind of goes to the arm for a while. But, like, he doesn't need to. And this is one thing that I would love to see in the future. I would love to see body triangle seatbelts scored. It's the current kind of meta. It's less of the current meta, but, like, that is control.
No, I've always thought body triangles should count all the same.
I think anytime you have your feet together around someone's chest, torso, or body, or, like, leg, or, like, above the waist, and you have 2 points of control at top, like, you have chest to chest, and then you have hands together in some configuration, that should be back position.
Yeah, that's never made any sense to me that we award points for the hooks, but not for body triangle.
Right.
Like, I just don't, it seems like an archaic. I can't come up with a justification that you would award back points for the body,
because body triangle wasn't used nearly as much.
But outside of those, like, outside of those, like, historical reasons, I can't see
why.
technical reason that you wouldn't award points for body triangle. And I've said that since fucking 2010. It's just It's always made.
I've heard it since 2013. Like it's always been like a weird where it's like, well, it's not points, but it's still really good control.
It just never made sense to me.
It's easier to spin out of, but I would argue it's actually not.
No, I mean everyone that I know hates body triangles because they're harder to get out of.
Yeah, if a guy has a good body triangle, like way harder than hooks.
Yeah,
guys will go from hooks to body triangle because they'll
get the points
control.
And then move on because they prefer to have the body triangle. Yeah.
Again, it's a change that I would love to see. Again, we're making big changes in the rules recently. I think it had to because I think IBJJF was very quickly like moving the way of the dinosaur if they weren't because people we're taking them less and less serious, especially Nogi.
Still
less.
Might be moving the way of the dinosaur.
Yeah, well, other reasons.
Get your stream together.
Yeah, that was
that's on flow, I think,
unacceptable. I don't know who it was on, but it was like 2021. Like you can't have a premium stream or a paid service with a stream of that quality. Like it's unacceptable.
Yeah.
Like I'm paying money to watch the events.
Not to harp on it anymore, but
I honestly, if we're gonna harp on it, it's a major event. This isn't like the Tulsa. This isn't the Tulsa Open or like pick your other middling-sized city Open.
Yeah.
This is like a major Nogi event.
People in Tulsa are about to be pissed at you.
Yeah, there's actually we have listeners in Tulsa, so like shout out to you guys. Sorry for that. I didn't mean this, but I just picked a random city in the Midwest that I've never been to. You want to bring us out? Let me know. So on to the men's rooster weight before I get too off track here. Esteban Martins Garcia defeating Roto Silva Jr. Fun match back and forth. This is the match where I thought Silva pulled with no grips. He grabs like a double plum on the head and like kind of sits as he lets it go. And I was like, I don't really think that should count.
Like the timing of it was very strange.
The timing of it, I looked at it, I was like, as I watched it, I was like, that was like an illegal pull. And I watched it like 2 more times. I went, maybe not, but that is like as great. Rooster weight is always the gray area for pulls.
Yeah,
if you ever want to get good, and I've talked to the guys at the gym recently about this. You ever want to get really good at scoring and understanding what is a pull, what is an ankle pick, or what is like a legal guard pull, watch a shitload of rooster weight matches because ain't no one going to fight for a takedown.
Nope.
Fun match back and forth. I think Esteban is the guy that has that gif from years ago of him in the absolute division double-legging the giant wrestler, and it runs towards the camera and it cuts this beautiful angle. I think that's him. It's really famous like BJJ gif of like guys got to be 290 or like giant dude and this little guy, and I think Esteban is like 5'4", 5'3",
he's not big.
And just like he's rooster weight and just runs and cuts this beautiful angle on it. Esteban does a really good job here throughout the match. It's a fun back and forth match. Esteban, I think it's a decision match, but looks good. Takes the rooster weight title. Let's move on to the ladies. Do you want to start in the open class? You want to start at
start at absolute?
Let's start at the absolute. We have Elizabeth Clay defeating Kendall Riesling via like a. What is your name for this arm?
I call it straight arm lock.
Okay,
but that's not. I mean, all arm locks are.
I know this is a violin arm lock.
Of what?
A violin arm lock.
Oh,
when
yeah,
you do it looks like you're playing a violin.
Yeah, I've heard
I also know it as a gringo sweep. I also know it as a straight arm lock sweep, a spiral arm bar. There's a bunch of different names for this arm lock.
I've always just called it a straight arm lock. But...
Yeah. It's a violin arm lock. If you know me, I talk about it all the time. It's what Gary Tonin and Gordon Ryan use all the time to sweep people. Yep. They call it some judo term, which is kind of incorrect, but I'm not going to harp on that. That's a discussion for a different day.
But it's so that she wins with that, but I actually really appreciated the setup. And so the way that she sets this up is she sits up. So Kendall's in her guard, in her open guard. Elizabeth Clay sits to guard right away at the beginning of the match. And she sits up and sort of gets a guillotine sort of grip, but also has the underhook on the far arm. And so like as a single arm guillotine. And it's actually pretty, it looks like Kendall has to put a lot of respect onto it.
She's leaning far forward in the position, and she's tripoded up for a good portion of it. And I was curious to see if Clay would turn it into like just a sweep over, but Kendall does I keep butchering Kendall's last name. I apologize. Yeah. Josh gave me tons of shit last week for it.
Call her Kendall.
Kendall does a really good job of not getting her hips turned over so that Clay can sweep her into mount.
Yeah.
And I was impressed about that because she's defending the guillotine that looks very deep.
Yep.
And maintains like positional, like not fortitude.
Yeah, she keeps herself stable. Yeah, it's really impressive defense. But in order to defend it while considering all of those things, she does need to move away from the arm that Elizabeth Clay had underhooked.
Yeah.
And so it's par for the course. If she doesn't do that, then she's going to get swept, or she's going to actually have to tap to this one-arm triangle. Like it's a real, one-arm guillotine, which is a real possibility in this particular case. Yeah. And so in order to defend these things and stay on top, she sort of drifts away from the arm, and the arm gets extended away from her, and Elizabeth Clay has that underhooked from the start. And so as soon as she releases the guillotine, Kendall, I think, realizes what's happening and starts trying to come back to center, but it's too late. Her arm's already extended from her.
Yeah.
Elizabeth has the arm lock set up, and she just needs to scoot her hips out to finish it, and she does.
This is one of my favorite series is this guillotine straight arm lock, because people will defend it coming over the top like this, and as you drop off from the guillotine, the arm is right in position to finish straight arm lock. Yeah. If you can't finish the green goal sweep with a straight arm lock here, the violent arm lock, you can get the sweep into mount, either finish into mount or go back to the guillotine. Again, as a guy that plays a ton of guillotine and butterfly guard, this is such a hard sequence to defend, because it leaves you essentially defending a really good sweep and two different subs, and there's really no correct option here if you can't get far enough away from it. And it's hard to get away from it because you have the head or you have the arm, and it is such a tight series, which is I think why the DDS guys use it so much, because there are so few decisions you can make that are correct decisions here.
Yeah. It's a great position, and it was a great setup from Clay, and a wonderful win for her for the absolute. Double gold in this.
Moving on to the female super heavyweight, we have Kendo get her name right.
Rusing.
I'm going to get it one day.
I think it's Rusing.
It's like the wine.
That's Riesling.
It is not Riesling, it's Rusling.
It's not Rusling either, I don't think.
I can't get it.
There's no L.
I'm so sorry. We did this like last year too. Versus Maria Cardosto. Kendall looked good here. Maria hits a takedown at the beginning of this.
I don't know. You must have seen the flow zone stream of it.
I don't know what it did. I found it this morning.
Yeah, when I watched it, it was all static.
Yeah, so I found a different. I think I found a different video of this. Maria hits a nice single leg. Like, what's the one you step the leg in front of their leg and you kind of drop them over?
Like the back trip version of the single?
Yeah, but it's from the front. It's like you just trap the leg and she just knocks Kendall over. And then Kendall's on the bottom, and then Kendall's not on the bottom and racks up 18 points on top with the sweep, finishes to side control to mount, to, I think, back and forth in the mount position a couple times, finishes the match 18-2 in mount. Very, very dominant top position performance, which is, again, what we've seen from Kendall in the past. Not with her wrestling background and judo background, not someone that you want to have flat on the bottom. Have someone on top of you when you're flat on the bottom. She is just unrelenting when she has you in bottom position and just continues to score, looks super dominant. Aside from the first takedown, 18-2 for Kendall. She takes the super heavyweight title for the women. We have in the female heavyweight division, we have Marilyn Meliasic versus Maggie Grandaddy. Meliasic gets this done with a knee bar.
Yep. Yeah. She was in charge of the match the whole time, I think. Grandaddy had some moments where it looked like she was going to
pass.
Yeah, pass
she
early.
Does a really good job of putting her head forward and trying to pass. She's a little low.
Yep.
And Meliasic is able to sort of get underneath her.
Yep.
And that's sort of the beginning of the end.
Yeah, she's trying that sort of cross-body pass that we've seen from a lot of different people. It's a pretty effective pass, but her hips get a little further back than I think they need to be.
So she can't lean into the weight as much as she needs to, and Maria is able to get underneath her.
Yep.
And
then also ends up with a topside triangle. So Meliasic ends up with a topside triangle from there, and Grandaddy put up a fucking hell of a fight getting out of it. I thought it was going to be.
Say a lot of things about Grandaddy.
She fucking fights. Yeah, tough as
you're in fight sport where where your fiance is a cyborg. You also have Gilbert Dorino Burns. You got Wagner Hoche there. Yeah. Now you have Michael Galvao at Fight Sports. Yeah. You have Victor Daria. It's
not an easy room.
Fuck no, dude. Vader Arujo is there. Baby Monster's there. Who else? Tex Johnson was there forever.
For a while.
You're only fighting other male super absolute caliber
and the grindy
giant guys.
fuckers too. Like, they're not the nice guys.
Nobody at Fight Sports has like a nice guy kind of style. They don't have like, cool, I'm gonna put you into the ground, and then I'm going to bury you in this mat for as long as this round is going to be.
I'm gonna make this as uncomfortable for you as possible.
Dude, so Grandaddy, dude,
tough
in
as
that
fucking
triangle,
nails. Gets out of that triangle and stands up, and they end up back on their feet. And Grandaddy, I think Meliasic pulls guard again. Grandaddy starts working the over-under pass, but isn't. Like, Meliasic's hips are never flat to the mat, and especially in
doing
Nogi,
a good job of getting one hip up.
Yeah, but I mean, like in this particular case, I think in Nogi especially, if you try to over underpass, it's extremely important that those hips are flat to the mat. In gi, I think you can get away with looser hips from your opponent just because you have some like grip that you have cloth that you can pull them back in.
Outside grip too. So it's like you also if their hips are above a no-gi, you only have leverage on the legs itself. In the gi, you can get like 6, 8. If you have the lapels or the skirt,
to keep them in.
Yeah, we also have control farther outside of the body line where it's like they turn. I can turn you back with the gi grips.
Yeah.
Versus if you turn with just the legs, I don't have a whole lot of leverage to continue to turn you. We saw Grace Gundrum off the double unders in her match at Cruise number 1 and hit a really nice truck entry. But again, I was super surprised then. I was like, oh yeah, from this position in Nogi, it's really, really hard to pass.
Well, I think it's doable. It's just you have to have so much more weight in your opponent's hips.
Yeah.
You have to keep both butt bones flat to the mat. And as soon as that shift starts to happen, it's going to go poorly.
It's almost impossible
and Grandaddy never really had Meliasic's hips flat on the mat.
She does a good job getting off her shoulders and getting up the hips.
Yeah. And so Meliasic's able to, because her hips are kind of further away, she's able to sort of like butt scoot out a little bit and then takes her leg all the way around Grandaddy's head and then brings it in underneath and then secures the knee bar with that leg sort of inverting almost all the way through, and ends up with the knee bar that we saw multiple times in this Pans, and finishes that knee bar really nicely.
Grandaddy doesn't get injured, thank God.
Yeah, no injuries.
Both these ladies compete, so I'm happy that she didn't. Onto the medium heavyweight division, we have Elizabeth Clay versus Bridget. I cannot pronounce her last name. Meliasic.
Sure, that sounds good.
Clay takes that one.
Yeah, Clay's pulls guard outside, plays some De La Hiva, moves to outside Ashi sort of seamlessly.
As she does.
Yeah, as she does. And then moves into a face down straight ankle lock pretty quickly and is able to finish it.
Is that heel hook or straight ankle?
I thought it was a straight ankle
to me. So this is one that I watched a bunch of Clay's matches. She has a bunch of heel hook wins. Yeah. I thought this one, because maybe
I might have been mislooking at it. She was she was face down for it.
Yeah, she's face down, but she's facing away from the camera in the match that I saw.
No, I think she was facing toward the camera.
Okay, so I might actually have the wrong match from Clay here.
I think it was a straight ankle lock. But
it was a standard. If you've watched Elizabeth Clay look at any of her Who's Number 1 matches in Nogi, she goes for what essentially is that tripod knee bar position. In order to stop that, you have to stack into the person. But Clay does such a good job of like it not mattering and like leg pressing you over her head, and then is able to turn back in for the ankle or the heel and finish it. Again, very standard Clay match. Looks dominant throughout, and again presents you a situation where it's like you have to make a bad decision. But I love watching at the black belt level where people get into these sort of positions where it's like, okay, you're in this knee bar sweep, and now Clay in IBJJF can use this knee bar sweep because she bitched about it at purple. She's like, I can't knee bar. And now she's in black belt, and you can heel hook and knee bar, and like where Clay is super, super strong. And now you have to stack into Clay, but Clay is probably one of the strong women in her division, so she can easily press you over her. And now you're in this weird situation where it's like, okay, I can't get out because Clay's on my knee. I can't get into her because Elizabeth Clay is going to take me over. So then you're trying to defend leg lock engagements with Clay, and Clay is probably the best female leg locker in the sport right now.
That's safe to say.
Yeah, and she's in medium heavyweight, so she's strong. And it's just it's a cool
medium heavy,
thing.
But also has absolute matches against people that are fucking Kendall.
Yeah, Kendall.
Right?
And look good.
Look dominant. Yeah.
So it's I'm love to see more Clay. I'm very, very excited to see her taking more titles.
Double gold for her.
Cannot wait to see her at trials.
Yeah.
I think the youngest female trials winner back in 2017. Very excited to see her. It wouldn't surprise, given it's a small division, I don't think she's going to get any invite, but wouldn't surprise me to see her really shake up
That's gonna be exciting.
Women's above 60 kilograms.
Yeah.
So next match, we have female middleweight. We got Vanessa Griffin and Erin Johnson.
Oh, yeah. So Griffin looked really good here. Pulls guard and sits up into like that sort of position where so Johnson was sitting back on her heels and is sort of straight up vertically, and Griffin climbs up and sits into the guard, makes Johnson carry her weight a little bit, and then works her way over into the Kimura, and then uses the Kimura to get the sweep, lands in mount, and then just crushes Johnson into the mat from mount for 8 minutes.
Yeah.
It was just looked like a
That
very
crazy
uncomfortable 8-minute
positional style where it's like a lot of we see some breaks.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm gonna turn you over, I'm gonna take you down, and then I'm going to put you in mount, and then I'm going to hold you here.
Yep.
And you're gonna do stuff,
and she
I'm
was
gonna make
going
it
for some subs here and there,
but not gonna leave mount.
Nope.
Like
nope,
I'm not gonna transition. You're not gonna roll. I'm not gonna try to force the roll. I'm gonna sub you from top, and if you aren't gonna give me top, I'm gonna win on points.
Yep. And that's what happened. She wins 6-0. 8 minutes of getting smashed from mount. Yeah.
Johnson did a really good job, defending, but Griffin was a nice high mount under the arms the entire time.
She was playing cautious. Yeah. Playing nice and cautious.
But again, you got your points. You have no need in the rule set to as long as you are actively working for something from the top.
And she was.
Yeah.
She was.
Hey, there's no stalling, but picks a really dominant match.
Yep.
Looked good. I think this is her first female black belt no-gi title. I could be incorrect.
Cool.
I think that is. I could be wrong. She might have taken no-gi pans last year.
I'm not sure.
Don't remember. Everything blurs. 2020 blurs together a bit.
Yeah.
On the female lightweight, we have Natalie Ribeiro defeating Shyla Lindsay. I don't have notes for this one. Do you?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So I don't have notes because this was another one, at least when I was trying to watch it, that the stream was just mosaic bullshit and nothing was visible. So
I don't have any additional results after that.
I don't.
I hope they're up later this week. I would love to watch it.
Ribeiro wins, but hopefully we can see it. Maybe the Flow Zone stream becomes available at some time.
I hope they par out the matches. I would love to.
I would love to see some of these.
Even the results on Flow with the listing finals, doesn't have all the finals up listed, and the ones that are listed sometimes are not good. And yeah, it's a whole thing.
Couldn't see that one.
Moving on to female featherweight, Gabby Mccomb defeats Patricia Magalhaes via
Mccomb
points.
Looked fucking incredible.
You called out her
match.
wrestling.
She hit so her wrestling overall looked good. She had multiple takedown attempts that looked fucking solid, very technical, very tight. But she had 2 separate double legs in this match that were
scoring. She had 2 scoring double legs. She
had
4 double legs in this match that I was very impressed with.
Yes.
And they were different double legs. They were 2 of them were chain wrestling double legs, and 2 of them were one of them was just straight blast double in the center, baby.
Not even blast doubles. These were technical
corner cut doubles.
Yeah. They were unbelievably clean. You could clip these doubles out and put them as an instructional on how you should do double legs in a traditional way.
In jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was incredible. I was blown away by her wrestling in this, and she just looked incredibly dominant. After the second one of these incredible double legs that Mccomb hits, she lands in side control.
We call that a clean takedown. I wish we would score clean takedowns.
Yes.
By clean takedowns,
that's
I mean
a huge problem with
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
what I'm talking about a clean takedown is essentially in jiu-jitsu, if you take down someone in most rule sets, you get 2 points. And then if you take down someone into the guard, you then pass the guard and get 3 points.
Yep.
But if you take down someone into a pass and there is no guard established, you still only get 2 points. So there's no benefit points-wise.
Yeah.
You get a benefit position-wise.
We've talked about this a lot in terms of
state-based
versus action-based.
Off air. I don't think we've talked about that a ton on air. ADCC scores clean takedowns.
Yeah.
So they give additional score if you get past the guard.
I don't even think it should be about the takedown necessarily. I think that I'm not sure. I can't remember how the ADCC rules are technically written, but in terms of in games in general, games and sports, whatever, right? You can score things based on the state of the game, or you can score things based on the actions that are performed in the game.
Jiu-jitsu does
and
both.
In jiu-jitsu, you just do fucking both for some reason. And so you have something like back or mount. You get points for the state of the game. Mm-hmm. You are in a position, the state is in mount or the state is in back, and that's why you get the points. But then you also have things like takedowns and passing.
And sweeps.
Which are action-based. And it's
and
stupid
then
that
Neon
all
Belly
happens.
is a position, but kind of a bit of an action as well because you have to maintain it. Like,
well, yeah, but so it's a stupid mix of the two. But if you just did things entirely, like it is possible to do jiu-jitsu in an entirely state-based scoring system, but it doesn't provide any advantages to the original way that jiu-jitsu was people wanted to play. And so like passing the guard was what you wanted to award points for because you wanted to encourage guard.
And you wanted to like passing the guard was like what jiu-jitsu was. Like if you were good at jiu-jitsu, you could pass the guard. Yeah. That was the thing in like the 80s, 90s, even the 2000s. Like it was like guard passing was like the thing.
Yep. But if you just scored side control instead, if you scored the state of side control, then you wouldn't have to think about clean takedowns or not clean takedowns. It would just be you get your points for the takedown and you get points for side control. You wouldn't have to score guard passing. You could just score the state of being past the guard, which is side control.
Yeah.
And then anyway.
So she gets a long diatribe,
sorry,
but
I
think it's
off topic.
I think it's relevant though because like it is a specific scoring thing. We're talking about a lot of changes in rules here this year. It's a thing that I think can be looked at because other organizations are beginning to clean takedowns and kind of quotes there are kind of coming to prominence a lot more.
It always never made sense that they don't because like I was always stupid in MMA. Like we would have these discussions about how you should adjust your takedowns for MMA and jiu-jitsu. And like one of the strategies that we had a lot of times for MMA, you always want clean takedowns because there's no advantage to being in someone's guard. It's
half guard. I would nowadays like there's I can hold someone in half guard. Yeah, I can hold someone in half guard nowadays easier than I can in side control in MMA because I can control the one leg. Yeah. But back in the day,
we wanted side control in 2010.
It was jiu-jitsu, and you wanted to do like, I'm getting you past. It's better now.
And there was no advantage to being in their guard.
Right.
At least we didn't think about it that way at that time. But we would also say, but if you're in jiu-jitsu or a grappling tournament, you should maybe let them get like a shitty half guard for like 10 seconds so that you can technically pass and get your extra points.
And I learned the same thing.
And like, that's terrible. Like, why would I encourage someone to accept a lesser position in order to game the rules, even though it's the right decision? Like, I still teach people that. Like, I still say you should probably land in some kind of shitty
sort
guard.
Of half guard out where their legs are pinned, you can pass easily.
Yeah.
Or like you land them in whatever your preferred half guard pass is, and then you wait, you do, and then you pass, and then you get your points.
But that's stupid.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Anyways, Mccomb
she lands way off topic.
Yeah, Mccomb gets a clean double, lands in side control, starts to move to mount, gets caught in quarter guard in the way, ends up just passing the quarter guard into mount, dominates for mount for a little while. It's I think the score's 11-0, and then she finishes with a face down armbar off of an inversion from the standing.
With like
a minute and a half left. No, it was like a minute and a half left. Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking of another
match. It did go pretty far, but yeah, it was a dominant performance, a really exciting match. Mccomb looked incredible. Her wrestling looked incredible. Yeah.
So on to the female light featherweight division. I can't find the match because it is a mosaic.
I found the match. There is only 1 minute that is viewable. Okay. In that 1 minute, Maisa Bastos hits a spadle. Nothing comes of it, but I love seeing a spadle in jiu-jitsu.
If you don't know what that is, you should Google. It's like spelled stupid. Spladle.
S-P-A-D-A-L-E, I think.
Okay. Super weird. It's a wrestling position used for pinning and wrestling. You can also use it as like a groin splitter. You can also use it for a bunch of stuff, but it's typically not seen in jiu-jitsu because it's a weird position.
I like it a lot, though. I think it's a nice position. You can take the back off of it. It's like a
it has
a
lot of
more
utility.
Complicated berimbolo a lot of times, which I think is why you might see it every once in a while in jiu-jitsu. It's like a and
it's
you
a
can also
strange
use it to
position
set up like toe locks and
you can set up a ton of stuff from it and a bunch of knee locks from it.
It's a weird position.
But it's a weird position, and it is difficult to get into.
Yes, especially not in nogi. In nogi, I can pull it off pretty regularly because really it's just people often in nogi you can get one hook like from a turtle, say you get one hook, it's easy to get. So it just for the spadle you essentially get a hook, and what in wrestling you get a full boot, and so you get your hook and then you drive your hook all the way in down to so that you're basically knee to knee, and then you hook your foot over top of their calf, and so it's like a grapevine on one side essentially, and then from there you sort of roll forward.
Very similar to like what a truck entry would be in jiu-jitsu, or like a lockdown entry from the turtle.
Yeah, but
then you do a bunch of other weird wrestling shit. Yeah, and you get a split.
Yeah, and you get a split. But so in no-gi, it's not so bad to get because you can get that one hook in. If you can get that one hook in, and then let's say you can't get the other hook in because they're just being really good and defensive about it, going from a hook to the boot is pretty easy. In gi, going from the hook to the boot is very difficult because you need to get your knee in further. A lot of times people are concentrated on holding your knee in place and not letting you get that knee in further, and then there's a lot of
you
friction
have
to get the
there
boot.
you can
there's
stop
pants,
with.
There's stuff happening. So in gi, I almost never use it, but in no-gi, it's
Maisa Bastos in this position also had a match against Jessica Khan, and she finishes in the last 3 seconds via armbar. Again, the transition is off the screen, so I can only see literally the arm of Jessica Khan in the final transition. But again, this is the second time they've met. Very good match. Khan looks very good, but Bastos is able to take it. Again, these two are going to meet a bunch more, and it is really cool to see Khan being being the closest contender with Bastos in many times. And so it's exciting because she's scoring with Bastos every time, which is good. I want to see more from Jessica Khan. So that does it for the recap of the 2021 IBJJF. Also, Oliver Taza got DQ'd for the Python choke. There's been a bunch of controversy on that. Zach and I agree it's a dumb rule, but it is the rule, unfortunately. Flo has a little article about explaining what happened. Again, I want to see more rule changes. I want to see the Python choke is but you put your hand from the back over their face and nose, or the mouth and nose. In IBJJF, it's illegal. You can totally do it with your forearm. It's totally fine. You can totally do it with your chest. You can do it any other thing. You just can't use your hand.
I saw. So
it's a weird
rule. It was
rule.
an Instagram thing, but someone on I think it was Flo's actual news article on Instagram about it, and someone was like, "I blame Wagner," and Wagner replied something along the lines of "Yes, we can wrap our legs around someone's face, shove our balls in their mouth, and choke them that way, but God forbid you put your hand over their face."
It's just one of those things.
He didn't say exactly that, but it was something that was you can hit someone with a triangle, but you can't put your hand over their face.
It's a weird rule, and again, it's one of those things that,
dumb.
as a rule guy, immediately I was like, yeah, it's in the rules, and then everyone else went, it's a rule. I went, oh, I'm way more into the rules than most normal people at all.
Also, it just shouldn't be a rule.
It shouldn't. Yeah,
it's fucking dumb.
And there's some organizations that allow for it, and some that don't. It's just. It's just unfortunate because I would love to see Tazo's run here, and Tazo has some other great matches, but it just sucks the first round to DQ because most rules you compete in, that's totally cool, and it is best practice to make the guy uncomfortable when you're in that position to have him fight the hand. So it's just frustrating.
Yeah,
but
and it's a thing that DDS guys do a lot.
Yeah, and it's because it's good.
It's smart jiu-jitsu.
Good to do. So that's all I got for Pans. There's a bunch of other stuff. I'm going to try to watch more matches throughout the week, but hopefully better quality footage comes out.
Hopefully the Flow stream gets broken up and posted, but
the
Flow Zone stream, because those are better, and the commentaries interesting sometimes.
I was just super upset with the quality of the event this week because I pay for it. Yeah. So, on to our preview of Submission Underground 23. This one's headlined by Mason Fowler taking on Kyle Chambers. It's EBI rules, 5-minute with overtime. I could see this going to overtime. I foresee Fowler kind of playing pretty defensively. Chambers has a lot of parallels to guys like Craig Jones. Going to look for the leg locks. Tall, lanky guy. This is the absolute title. I foresee Fowler kind of taking it like many matches he takes. I think Chambers is not the same kind of match as Boogie Martinez that Fowler just competed against.
No, he's going to play the rules the way that he has before.
Defensively, and then, in the overtimes, look for just the crazy strength that he has to crush faces and bodies. And so that's what I foresee. Again, Chambers is another guy that's very, very adept in the EBI style rules. Has a ton of experience there, so has some possibilities of escaping, but so did Craig, and Fowler just has an incredible kind of special squeeze to him. So that's that. We also have Jake Ellenberger versus Carlos Condit in a grappling match. We have Raquel Canuto versus Jillian Robertson. That should be a really fun one. This is a tough one for Robertson. Canuto didn't do Pans this last week. She didn't show for it, but very, very good female black belt. Excited. We also have Richard Martinez versus Don Stoner. We have Andy Varela, previous absolute challenger, versus Joseph McKay, and a number of other folks on the undercard. Takes place on Sunday, the 23rd. So that's what we will be covering next week, and we will also be previewing who's number one next week. And then in a couple weeks, do some fight to wins, but that's all I got. Anything else you want to talk about for that?
No.
All right, so let's move into the outro section. What are going on this week? Anything fun?
Nothing. Just happy to be back to doing jiu-jitsu.
Me, I am not. I'm still doing PT. Yeah. I just got a text that was like, "Hey, you have a PT appointment in 2 days." I'm like, "I know. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there to like flex my glutes because apparently I can't flex one glute post surgery." That was fun to find out.
Interesting. Yeah. I got this. I got this thing.
Oh, the Whoop. Yeah. Everyone at the gym has been talking about you having a thing, and you've been posting how many calories you've been burning when rolling. I'm like, that's not right. He's a heavyweight.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big guy in the first place, but I've been.
You don't know, Zach's about 250.
40.
Are you 240 now?
Yeah, 240.
Good for you.
Yeah, 250 was my like.
It was like middle of
quarantine. Yeah.
You came to the house one day. I was like, "Ooh," you were like, I gotta."
Yeah, I got been cutting them down. I'm actually probably like 238 right now. I've been down about a pound every week or two.
That's good. That's a healthy weight loss.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for.
That's awesome. What are you shooting for, by the way?
Probably 230.
Oh, so you're there.
Yeah.
My heavyweight standards are there.
Yeah. But I don't want to cut it off too fast.
Yeah,
So
go to like 218 and just be like angry and like jacked.
No, I don't go down that far anymore.
Says the guy that fought at 85 for years.
Yeah, I did. But it's been really exciting. I'm like a professional scientist, so having a shit ton of data is exciting to me, and it's nice. I was looking for one that I could do a jiu-jitsu with because it doesn't make sense to have a heart rate fitness tracker or thing like that, because most of my fitness shit is jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And so this thing comes with you can buy like a little arm sleeve.
Yeah.
And I found that it seems to stay on perfectly fine.
And it doesn't bang into guys. Like the big thing with like Fitbits and stuff is like they're so big and I use the Apple Watch.
Yeah.
I can't roll with that.
No,
it's
you
this
absolutely
big like chunky piece of metal and plastic on my wrist, and you're using your wrist, so it's like not
so
good.
This thing's pretty small in the first place, and it slides into this little like.
By the way, we are not sponsored.
No,
at
not
all
sponsored by them at all. I just really like the device.
And it gives you cool data, and you can actually train with it. And people,
I'm actually concerned with how accurate it is a lot of times because I'm a scientist, and that's how I think about things. So I don't think it's like, but I mean, I'm not sure that the Apple Watch is either, right? Like, I don't think that any of these things are really super accurate. So.
But they're getting there, and it's like it's
getting better.
It's interesting data that you can compare against, and if you have a large enough data set, you can compare the data against.
And hopefully the variability, like, I might not be getting absolutely correct readings, but hopefully the variability remains consistent, or the inaccuracy remains consistent, so it's at least comparable within itself.
Yeah.
Talking
about data set manipulation, which again I love, but it's probably not in the realm of most people that do jiu-jitsu, like what they do.
Yeah, probably not.
But I think it's cool. Like again, I've looked at one for years, and I wish there was one without a subscription service.
Yeah, the subscription's kind of stupid, but
again, the data is cool enough, and it does like hydration. Spencer had one for a while. Like it does a bunch of cool stuff.
That's cool stuff.
And the people that I know that have had them are like, yeah, it's really cool, and like I like the data it gives me. So
I like neat data.
I like data. I love my Apple Watch for like the heart rate and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like tells me like how fat you are. Like, hey, you slept terribly last night. I'm like, thanks, Apple Watch. I know, because I feel like shit this morning.
Thanks again. I couldn't tell by the way that I felt like garbage.
I track all my sleep data, so it's like I'm a huge proponent of like, and I noticed that the data that I track, I have better indications of like, oh yeah, I need to like take a better effort in my life to like get to bed earlier and like sleep better. And it just gives. I like data. It helps the quality of my life, so I'm happy that you got that.
Yeah.
Any other fun stuff going on?
No, just jiu-jitsu.
Nice. So, all right, that is it for this week. As always, in the show, I'm your host, Maine, and the co-host,
Zach.
And we are the Grappling Round. We'll see you on the mats. Whenever that is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.